So hello, WW3 and prophecies. So what do we know and what I, by the grace of God, discovered in the last 2 days, given that I am doing extra work, given that my colleague or shift colleague is recovering from foot surgery, basically. Well, and since probably is going to watch this, I wish you a speed recovery, basically. Because if you in some way, if you recovery if your recovery is fast, I will not have to suffer for so long doing part of our job on the shifts. Okay, so now to serious stuff and what I have been gathering and discovering and investigating. So sadly, it seems that sadly, in what concerns the world, it seems that due to the terrible situation of the Ukrainian forces, which in my view are nearing collapse, there are things that are on the drawing board, and things that have been prophesied, some of them recently, and it seems to be there seems to be a connection. So first, what is not on the of the realm of prophecy. So what we know, and I am going to help to get some help from a lot of notes. So in first, I will advise you not to follow. You can follow the mainstream media, but there's a lot of more intel or information in other sites, and it's from the gathering of that information, and even from the channels that we know are sponsored by the Russian side and from the Ukrainian and NATO side. Well, sadly, it seems almost obvious that NATO is preparing for a full war against Russia. There's a channel that analyzes in detail the battles, and on last Sunday, the 8th of September, there was analysis that in fact NATO are going into Ukraine. This is very dangerous. Also, I must say that attack on Poltava was, for what I know, much deadlier than what it was told, because it was basically an attack on a school that was dealing with the formation or where electronic experts or what would become electronic experts in dealing with certain systems, like probably the early warning system that the Swedes are going to give Ukraine, about that plane systems and all the radar and the radar, tactical component of it. Anyway, so there was or there is a voluntary legion, which is a foreign legion, and there are mercenaries, and this is open for people who study these affairs, that knows that they even use their national flags along with the Ukrainian flag. So there's a lot of mercenaries for now, but so Poland want to rule out sending troops to Ukraine, according to the Polish foreign minister. There was a brigade, and the brigade has about 4,500 troops with its vehicles and all the logistical stuff and such. Although the logistical part might be units from the logistical arms of the armies, the national armies, but in 2009, I believe it was formed what was called a tri-national brigade. It was comprised of troops from Poland, Ukraine, and let me see the other country. I don't remember, but I can see in the notes. If it was Moldova, I believe it was Moldova, the third country. And when Ukraine was invaded, the part, like the battalion that comprised that force, that was comprised by Ukrainians, was so returned to Ukraine to defend the country. But this tri-national brigade will probably now be fully be manned by Ukrainians that are outside the country, that fled the country, and I am going to give you numbers. And those men, together with another brigade from France, or even more brigades from other places, will probably enter Ukraine, and I will give you the numbers. First, there was and this brigade, the Ukrainian, like the Ukrainian 116th. So the number is the ordinal number, or number of Orlin is the number 160 brigade of the Ukrainian mechanized brigade. So there's this brigade that I spoke. This tri-national brigade was located in Lublin, which is Lublin is a place in Poland, and the aim now is to grab basically the military aged men that are that fled to the other, in special European countries, and with parts of them form these new brigades, but form them in a way that does not behaves with the errors that were committed, given that the men were trained with only like 2 weeks of basic training, and then there was no combat and tactical training. That meant that when the last offensive took place, they basically didn't know how to fight in together, and they did not know even when and where to place or fight or cover themselves between themselves, give cover between themselves and between the vehicles and such. And so it was a disaster, and the number of casualties was probably, for what we have seen, and we have seen like destroyed vehicles given by NATO countries, some of them with superior qualities, but they were like grouped together, or in terms of maneuver, the things didn't have. They didn't need more time for a proper treatment, for a proper trainment, and trainment. And another effect was that sometimes they went to countries where they were trained with a specific type of weapon, and there are a lot of weapons in Ukraine now, even from different nationalities and origins. But when they got to the combat fields, they were given like other types of weapons. This does not seem the way that they or NATO is going to proceed, and it seems that according to my opinion and to the opinions of other people who study this, it is my view that it is NATO that is going to attack Russia, maybe in a way that forces Russia to go to nuclear weapons. But anyway, there was a prophecy, or what in the realm of prophecies. There are from sources in the Catholic Church. There have been, we don't know if this is certain, because the Catholic Church has to do a lot of studies in order to consider that some revelations were divine or not, but those revelations have gathered significant, or what I would call significant, support from some important sectors in the church. Those revelations or prophecies are not only a gathering of prophecies and what was told in the, apparitions or visions from the past of the Virgin Mary, the Saint Michael the Archangel, and even Jesus Christ, and also new ones that are supposed being given to a Brazilian priest called Father Oliveira, a nun also in Brazil that is called that they don't call her by name, but they say she's a nun from the north eastern region of Brazil. And there is also for a long time, for like probably 10 or more years, the revelations to Luz Maria de Bonilla. About Luz Maria de Bonilla I have doubts, but we can have doubts. I mean, but I have also seen some things that she revealed was told to them by Christ, the Virgin Mary, or the Saint Michael the Archangel, that became truth. Anyway, I urge you to prepare as God somehow urged in these messages for us to prepare the way we can, especially with prayers, and it's maybe with prayers that I'm lacking the most. But also for us to gather refugees. So hideouts and ways to circumvent the restrictions and the suffering that is going to fall upon humanity, and it will include new diseases or forms of disease. At the first, one of the prophecies spoke about an attack on the city of the sun in Poland, and that will originate or escalate things to probably what I might call the level of World War III. There would be, according to that, visions or prophecies or interior communication to these holy people, or people connected to the church by some sacraments. So a couple will go to, it will be on the City of the Sun, and I have to investigate which was the city in Poland that was called the City of the Sun, and it was Warsaw, the capital city. And I believe it is called so because Nicholas Copernicus, which was the man that, like in the era of Galileo Galilei, I believe a bit prior, or I don't know, even remember if it's contemporary to Galileo or if he came a little bit after. He told that, or prior, he told and proved that the sun, that the Earth rotated around the sun and not the contrary, not the sun that rotated around Earth. So, and in that prophecy, a couple will bomb. There will be a big explosion in the City of the Sun. So Warsaw, for what I could find out, and it spoke about a building, like an official building. There would be a reaction from the guards, but it would not be sufficient, and that would be a couple. And there was a square in which there was like statues of lions, and I went to investigate if in Warsaw there was a square, or if there was a square that had statues of lions, and in fact there is. In fact there is, and there is a square that has like two seated lions, and it was announced that it would be there. Also announced it was that France would be the one that, after an event, I don't know if that is that explosion, would be the one who would give the initial declaration for World War III, that would declare war, and then probably other countries would follow. Anyway, it is urgent, and people have been studying the numbers, and they, in order to solve the problem that was this lack of acting as a combat, a full trained combat unit, because the Ukrainians, which are good fighters and have courage, were fighting like there was training given to small units, but those small units were not operating in a good manner with all the other elements of the brigades, like the infantry fighting vehicles. There was not a cohesion, there was not like a team that helped each other in the fighting, and so the results were dreadful, basically. We are talking in this war about numbers that are incredible high, about in what concerns casualties from both sides. But I don't know if the Ukrainians will be able to secure the Russians in the next weeks or months. The fact that the Ukrainians entered the Kursk region, we must remember that in the Second World War, that ended in May of 1945, there were German cities that fought until 1946, so a year later, and that only surrendered or given up. later. Although the war was won, because they were like passed over or passed on the sides. From the last line of the Ukrainian defense, we could have a rush towards central Ukraine. In order to counter this, the French, for instance, decided to train 2,011 men, a brigade. This year they will be given 188 infantry fighting vehicles, 18 Caesar trucks with the artillery piece, and 24 somewhat light IMX-10 tanks. They have the objective to have this brigade ready by December, ready and trained by December 2024. But anyway, there was that brigade that I believe I spoken about, that tri-national brigade composed by elements from, I guess, Moldova, Poland, and Ukraine, that is probably going to be manned with men, for fighting aging men, from the huge number of persons and even fighting age men that fled to other countries. And now we have even something to think about in Europe, which is we don't have enough men to fight a war, so there would be the conscripts, and conscription might come to European countries and NATO countries, and that would be a huge suffering for European parents and all the ones that have family ties or friendship ties with those people. But the idea is, and it's funny and sad, that those persons who fled basically the fighting, or to fight, to go to other country and being like picked up in that other country in order to fight. But the numbers are that so huge that even if a small percent of those people in fighting age who fled, if they are recruited, they could man these brigades. And it's also in Lublin, Poland, that is headquartered the new mechanized Polish brigade, which is the 19th. So now what we have is that the Czechs, which are a NATO country, started thinking, or did a study that found that the number of Ukrainian refugees are the following in these countries. So 1.2 million in Germany, 957,000 in Poland, 350 in Czechia, 240,000 in the United Kingdom, to 200,000 in Spain, so it's 240,000 in the UK, 170,000 in Italy, 123,000 in Moldova. So I believe this, if we gather 20 European countries, there would be like, I believe, I am not sure, but if like 5, I believe it's 5.5 million, I believe it probably will be million Ukrainian refugees, and 30,000 and 300,000 of these are in age to fight, for instance, in Poland. So, if we yes, and from these 5,500,000 refugees, 1,066,000 1,650,560 million are in age to 5, so 1,650,000 are in age to fight. So this is 4 times the amount of the Ukrainian troops in the trenches now. So now it's believed that the number of Ukrainian troops who are on the trenches and tired. Some of them that don't even have physical conditions to be fighting are like 300,000. If only 10% of these people that are military aged persons, especially men, abroad would join these new brigades that are being formed and trained in European countries, and giving them European armament vehicles and such and weapons, there will not be the problem of, like some of them were trained in Ukraine, trained outside of Ukraine, but when they came to Ukraine they were given different weapons. This time they will not run that risk, and they will train them in a more complete way. So if 10% of these 1,650,000 people in age to fight, which are 4 times the men in Ukrainian trenches, which by what I know are on the last line of defense, and some of the lines of defense that are being built are hastily being built, and they are like some of them and built with shovels, and if they are surpassed, and if, for instance, Pokrovsk falls, there is a logistical nightmare for the Ukrainian troops who are basically stopped in the Ukraine front, on the Kursk front, and the Russians don't seem to be a lot worried about that, because they know that if they break this resistance, it probably would be that Kursk offensive would probably be a shot on foot, or a shot on foot, basically, because there were the good forces were committed there. The Russians are reinforcing that sector, but the lines of supplies to the Ukrainian forces seem to be a little too long. Anyway, so if only 10% of these 650,000 people, if 10% of these enlisted in these international legion brigades and such, we will have 165,000 fighting men. 1% of these, only 1% of these, if only 1% of these enlisted, we would have enough for 10 mechanized brigades. This would probably, in a conventional term, if they have time, and I must remember you that it's not only the time, but it's the mineral resources, even in order to do electronic components for the vehicles. and NATO and Western forces are much more spoiled, and it's they are in the electronics has a much stronger importance in the fighting machines of NATO, and it's probable that NATO is planning an attack, basically, and this would try to cripple Russia. The fact that the Russian airport in Moscow, I believe, or one of the Russian airports in Moscow, was attacked by drones is like a dangerous escalation, because the Russians might be nearing the use of nuclear weapons, which is in fact what the maybe the ones who are behind, who play both sides and are behind the curtain, want. Destruction, disease, death. Basically a Satanist plot. Interesting things now that we can travel back to this realm of prophecies. Saint Paul, the one that was converted by Christ, I believe because Christ needed a person that was fluent and with more deep knowledge about a wiser man, basically, an educated man. Christ needed him to spread the faith, and he spoke about it's not like that, like a fall and a resurgence of Christianity. So what we could have is like like a second coming or a resurgence of Christ. Not the second coming in itself as like the evangelists in the States believe, but like the Russian would be the instrument from which the heavens chastise humanity. Today we see such even a hate against Christians and Catholics that we are seeing the signs of persecution, and even when we criticize it or mock, and I have the recent experience of this, if some people mocks the Catholic faith or its sacraments, even if they call themselves Catholics without being Catholics, because in order to be Catholic you have got to fulfill what is prescribed by the Catholic Church, like going to Mass on Sundays and all the other commandments from the Church and from God. Today people treat God like if they are not afraid of Him, there is not the fear of God, and so even being God, a merciful creature, he is also just, and Russia is believed to be the chastisement instrument. There was also a revelation to a saint, a Polish saint, that told that Christ loved Poland, especially because it would be from Poland that it would come that revival in the religion and faith of humanity, and it would probably bring like a second Warsaw destruction. But this is what I believe. I don't know if this is the correct interpretation of what have been said, or as supposed being said to the ones who are given the heavenly messages or heaven's messages. Now, also interesting, and when we study and know things about Satanism, it's interesting that numbers play a part. I found it interesting that there was a bus line that connected some place of Poland to a city in Poland called Hell, and that city called Hell, which Hell is what we know, the place where the souls go to suffer in the eternal flames, and that the bus that covered that line, the name of the line was 666, so 666, which is the number of the beast. Then the company changed that name, that number, for 669. So we have had a bus line from a bus company that was numbered 666, and that connected places in Poland or to like Hell, a city called Hell in Poland. But also, what I was saying was that to a saint, I don't know if it is Saint Kowalska or something like that. Christ said that it would be from Poland, that he would like made its return to a peaceful period. So basically, what we know is that there will be a period of chaos in which we are probably entering right now, and already starting to feeling its effects. There will be war, and nations will be wiped out, and a lot of death, which is in fact some part of what is believed to be the globalist agenda. And then it will be from Poland that would come basically the change. And the also in messages from from people connected to the church, the lack of faith, called apostasy, is amazing, is brutal, even in the ones who call themselves, and they openly call themselves Catholics or even Christians, but they do not act like so, both in their lives and choices, and even in how they mock even the sacraments and such. So we are also warned to be prepared to live in places where we could survive even extreme forms of control, being it by the government or other forces, or from invading forces, which will become the government. Also, there are signs, and we are seeing with even the Muslim people in Europe There have been signs of and lots of churches that were burnt, and that reminds us of another, and numbers have a special symbolism for Satanists. I found it interesting that the Second World War started at the let me see at the 3rd of September of 39, because if the 3rd of September, if we go to the September month number, which is 9, if we subtract 3 to that 9, we could place a 6 in the date of the day, and we will have 6. And then if we would go to the year, we could do like the same. We should subtract 3 from 9. We would have 6, and we would have 2 6s, because the 3 that we subtracted from 9 would added to the middle, added would give 3, added to 3 would give 6, and it would remain 6. So the presence is interesting, and there are, for instance, elements even in movie scenarios that are special, like in, I believe it is the Civil War movie, like where the clocks are all marking 6:30 in the clocks in the rooms of the couple, or the original couple that owned the house. That is very interesting, and it's also very sad that a lot of people don't recognize satanic symbology or even pedophile symbology, which is, of course, somehow connected. So this is what we have. I would say that given that the Russians seem not to be willing, and they are being intelligent, seem not to be willing to drop like a tactical nuke, maybe NATO is pushing them farther and farther and farther and farther and farther, not in terms of territory, but in terms of, because as I was saying in the past, NATO doesn't have even the minerals to do so much weapons as in large numbers as the Russians have, especially because and not even in population. And the future for Europe seems a bit darker, because not only our society is soft, is not combat driven like, for instance, the Russians or the Ukrainians, but we don't have the resources, even in what concerns men and probably fighting women. Because if we look at the power or the alliance that in which somehow Russia is a member of, like the alliance between Russia, North Korea, China and Iran, we have huge numbers of fighting men. We just have to look for China, like in the population in the billions, although India is the country with the most population, more population in the world, but in terms of industrial production that we gave to the Chinese and are now trying to get back, and even the Russian military complex is stronger now, and it has the minerals that allow them to produce like more artillery shells and such. So we are in deep trouble, but we placing myself as a member of NATO, but who doesn't support what NATO is doing right now, because I believe the way now would be to enter peace talks, because the people of those republics, Donbass and Donetsk, mainly want to be part of Russia. But anyway, it is said, like, and there's like a blindness, like a normalcy bias, and I guess people will be surprised in the next times with what the world will show them, and how lives can change so quickly, like for the millions of the Ukrainian people out there, their towns, their means of subsisting were changed, and how death came upon them, and also upon and also upon a lot of Russians. But for the Russians don't think as we believe they do. They have experience of trying to be invaded, of being invaded, and also that feeling that people have, that it was Putin, like the bad guy who entered Ukraine like with no reason. We have to think and study what the Ukrainians were doing to the people in those republics, in a process that started basically when they removed the Ukrainian government, like in a somewhat strange coup in 2014. Divine messages also encourage us to prepare, to look for refuges, for places to hide, but also tell us that our main preparation must be prayer and like sacrifices and such, and in that I believe I am lacking. Also in the others, but they speak about material preparation, in fact, as we can, and also governments from Sweden to, I believe, Germany are distributing like manuals for survival and what to do in the case war comes. And this is a somber picture, and a warning from the future, but I believe we are going to have rough times ahead, and that's it, basically, what I have to tell you. All the best.